All right, good evening, everybody. On behalf of Golf Manitoba, we'd like to welcome you to our Winter Rules opening seminar. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Munns. I'm the Director of Communications and Development with Golf Manitoba. We ask everybody if you'd like to turn on your camera for tonight. We'd love to see your faces. If you have some questions as the night goes on, we encourage you to do that for participation tonight. And you may have heard just a couple of seconds ago that we are recording this. So if anybody misses it, it will be available on our YouTube page probably tomorrow morning. Hosting with us here tonight, we have three of our Level 3 officials from Golf Manitoba, Don McDonald, Rob Bell, and Gord Hudson. These gentlemen are the highest ranking officials we have in our province and are here to share their knowledge with you tonight and also to help you out, not only as this evening goes on, but as we see everybody on the golf course this summer. Don't forget as well, if you're on your calendar, the second session is coming up on February 18th from 7 p.m. until 8:30. So you can mark that in your calendar, and we'll send out some updates for you and a reminder as we get a little bit closer to a month from now. There is a chat that is available tonight. Don and Rob will do the majority of the talking, but Gord will be there to monitor the chat and answer any questions that you have. So feel free to be welcome to take part in that. And with that in mind, Don, we'll let you get the festivities underway tonight.
Thanks, Brian, and a warm welcome to everyone for joining us. Rules of golf, it's really a journey. The more you attend an event like this, play in a competitive event, the more you learn. And I learn every time I do something like this. So, first key is, where do you get the rules? You can they're in book form, but I really encourage you, the Golf Canada app, to go into that app. Down in the bottom right-hand corner where it says more, there's a link to Rules of Golf. It's actually the R&A Rules of Golf that the link is to, and it provides a great summary of the rules, and it's searchable. So you're out on the golf course, you wonder what your options are for an unplayable lie, you can get it almost instantaneously. It's hard to remember all the rules, and there's nuances to the rules. So, that feature is there for your benefit. So, rules of golf. There are 25 rules now. I'm going to cover the first half, and Rob will cover the second half. Rule one, the game, player conduct, and the rules. Each of the rules has a purpose, and it explains what the rule covers. So rule one, it's the game. Play the course as you find it. Play the ball as it lies. Play by the rules. Play in the spirit of the game, and apply your own penalties. So golf is unlike other sports. Often you're the only person who knows if you have incurred a penalty. Has the ball moved? A situation like that. Have you hit a loose impediment in the bunker? Those are types of things that the player would know, and your obligation is to call that on yourself. Actions to be considered, or factors to be considered, and this depends on what happened. Actions that are deliberate typically involve a penalty. Actions that are accidental may not. So if you're reasonably searching for a ball and you accidentally move it, no penalty. Actions that are reasonable versus non-reasonable. Are you fairly taking your stance? Are you charging in there like an elephant into the bush, breaking branches and things like that? That's clearly not reasonable, and that's liable to get you penalized. So play by the rules. So that's rule one. And as I mentioned, players responsible for applying the rules. Expectation is to recognize when you've broken a rule. Now you may not. You may think, have I breached a rule? You have your app. If you're playing in a competition, you can call a referee. In some cases, stroke play, you can play a second ball if there's a referee that's not available. But if you're in doubt, be cautious. Expectation is to be honest. If you fail to apply a penalty, that will be a disqualification. If you and the people you're playing with ignore a rule, that's also a disqualification. You can always ask about rules. That's not advice. That's general information. So don't ever hesitate. You may be golfing with someone who's played more golf than you or is more familiar with the rules. Never hesitate to ask advice on the rules. You don't ask them what club to hit or how to play a shot, but you can certainly ask them about rules. There are really three levels of penalty. One stroke penalty, excuse me, is where the potential advantage is minor. Uh, General penalty is two strokes in stroke play or loss of hole in match play. And that's where the advantage may be significant. And then, of course, disqualification is for serious misconduct or a high advantage, or if you haven't completed play of a hole. If you played a wrong ball, for example, and you tee off on the next hole and realize, oh, I played the wrong ball, and you have not corrected it before you teed off on the next hole, that'll result in disqualification. Rule number two is the course. And it's important to remember that there are areas, five defined areas of the course. General area covers the entire course except for except for the other four specific areas of the course. And certain rules apply specifically to these other four areas of the course. We're going to go through them quickly here. So the five defined areas, the teeing area, which is where what the player must use in starting play of the hole that they're playing. As you can see, that's 2 club lengths in depth. It is rectangular, and hopefully it's pointing down the middle of the fairway. All bunkers on the golf course, whether it's on the hole you're playing, excuse me, or another hole. So all bunkers, that is another defined area of the course. Next one is all penalty areas, typically water, but since 2019, deeply wooded areas or areas that could present a danger or even pace of play, the committee can mark a course as a red penalty area from which you get penalty relief. So in that diagram, you can see number 3 appears to be a wooded area. There's no water associated with it up at the top of the schematic. Down at the bottom right, you see the more typical water penalty area. And the putting green of the hole the player is playing. So it's important to note that it is just the hole that the putting green of the hole you are playing. Other putting greens are wrong greens. So if your ball ends up on a wrong green, you must take relief from it. Next. Rule 3 just covers the types of play, stroke play, match play, and they're really outside the scope of this session, but we'll cover it in the next one in February. So 4 is equipment, and that includes clubs, golf balls, distance measuring equipment, aids for stretching, things like that. A variety of types of equipment. So you want to look at rule number 4 if you have a question, whether it's conforming club or golf ball. Golf Canada has that on their websites. You see the important number 14 on the screen. That's the maximum number of golf clubs that you can carry for a round. So mark your ball. At any of these rule sessions, I always say, in a major event that I referee at every year somebody plays a wrong ball. And these could be very, very experienced golfers, uh, uh, but it happens. So the best way to avoid that is to mark your ball, unique identification. And if you're in doubt, there are procedures for identifying the ball, which we will get into. You can mark and lift your ball to determine if it is your ball. But if you don't know that it's your ball, don't hit it, I think is the basic uh, recommendation. Next is five, playing the round. So playing the round is uh, one of the things is keep up your pace of play. Uh, it covers how to play around, such as where and when a player may practice on the course before or during a competition, when a round starts and ends, and what happens when play has been stopped and how to resume it. Also deals with order of play here, as you can see. Order of play, generally, the ball furthest from the hole has the honor. So you want to follow that. There's no penalty if you play out of turn in stroke play, unless it's for the purpose of giving an advantage to a player. And you're encouraged to play ready golf. So, pace of play is important. You're encouraged to play promptly. You don't have to run, but you're 40 seconds is the maximum amount of time that it should take for you to play a stroke. So always keep that in mind. Golf Manitoba events, we monitor pace of play, and that's not to penalize players. It's to respect the other players in the competition and the golf course that has provided its course to us. So we want to play at a prompt pace, and please respect that. Playing a hole. So Rule 5 is playing around. Rule 6 is playing a hole. So this gets into other areas. As you see, the ball must be played from inside the teeing area. In stroke play, if you play outside the teeing area, you must correct that. You have not properly started play. If you do not correct that and you go to the next hole, you're disqualified. In match play, your opponent has the option to cancel a stroke. So here we've got a diagram inside the teeing area. The ball, any part of the ball that is touching the teeing area is inside the teeing area. So you see right on the edge of the two club lengths. But if it's outside the teeing area, then you have to, in stroke play, replay your shot under penalty of two strokes. Wrong ball here. Cannot play a ball that isn't yours. Penalty for doing so is the general penalty. General penalty, recall, in match play, it's loss of hole. Stroke play, it's two strokes. And you must correct the mistake. So you play a wrong ball, get to the green. Uh-oh, wrong ball. You have to go back and hopefully find your ball and play it. And then you're penalized for the wrong ball, but you're not penalized for strokes that you've taken or penalties incurred with that wrong ball. Now, if somebody else plays your ball by mistake, KVC means known or virtually certain. You must replace the ball on the original spot or estimated spot. So you see someone, you've hit a ball, you see someone go and plays your ball. Hopefully you can track them down so they don't get away with your ball. In any event, if it's known or virtually certain that somebody's played your ball by mistake, you replace the ball, no penalty to you, of course. Ball search, finding and identifying the ball. This is Rule 7, an important rule, except probably all you guys and gals hit the ball down the middle of the fairway. I don't. I hit it in bad places. So how do you search? You take reasonable actions. You can move sand and water. you can move, bend, or even break growing or attached natural objects. So the fact that you break an object, as long as your action is reasonable, you're not going to be penalized. Is the ball yours? You may lift it, but must mark the spot first. Never just pick up your ball, uh, 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 especially if you're identifying it. You have to mark the ball, lift it. You can't clean it, and check for type of ball and identifying mark and replace on the exact spot. Ball moved while searching. No problem if it's accidental. So you're in long grass, you're walking, you kick the ball, then you have to replace it to original spot or estimate that spot. And how much time do you have to search? 3 minutes maximum. If you cannot find your ball within 3 minutes, your ball is lost, unfortunately. So be aware. If the ball is found, let's say 2 minutes and 50 seconds, uh, 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 you do have a reasonable amount of time to identify it, even if it goes over the 3 minutes. I see a question from Sean Murray, which is a very good one. And it is, if you see a ball, do you have to identify it? Came up multiple times with others that they didn't like where it was, so they didn't identify it, ignored the ball. Yes, you must identify your ball. You cannot uh, refuse to identify your ball. That is contrary to the spirit of the game and the rules of golf, and that would lead to potentially a disqualification. So, yeah, the intent is that your ball, if a ball is found, it is yours or could be yours, that the player has to identify it. You can't opt out. There's a very famous situation with Phil Mickelson at Torrey Pines where he had a ball off the tee and he asked uh, uh, the marshal not to search for it. And of course, the marshal found it, but that meant that that was his ball. So even if you ask people not to look for it, uh, they can. Golf Manitoba referees, if a ball is hit into an area, uh, bad country, so to speak, we do not assist with the search of the ball unless the player requests us to, and we'll also ask, well, how far in do you want us to search? But if we do find a ball, and the player must identify it. So excellent question, Sean, and that's one of the things that competitive players need to be aware of. If you don't like where the ball is, put another ball in play. That's the way to deal with that. Now,
Sorry, Don, can I just jump in quick? And that's
yeah.
for all of our, like, we have a lot of the junior development team on here, but that's something to really make sure that your parents or people that are coming out to watch are aware of as well, because often they pop ahead and we're all intended and thinking they're trying to help, but if they happen to go down and find that ball, then we have to identify that ball. So, make sure they're aware that if the ball goes into a heavily wooded area, you may not want to find that ball and you should, hopefully they stay back. We try to remind them as best we can. But unfortunately, sometimes the situation arises where they found something that you don't want to find, but you have to identify it. So sorry, Don.
No apologies, Rob. That's excellent advice to competitive players. Course played as it is found. That is rule number 8. That is a very important rule, and that's play the course as you find it. Play the ball as it lies. You can see here, not a good situation, but uh, the player is limited in terms of what they can do. They can reasonably take their stance. Um, they cannot bend or break any of that growing vegetation. And there you go. This is a way to remember this rule. Cats, conditions affecting the stroke. You see that ferocious animal there. There are certain things you can and cannot do in connection with your stroke of the ball. So definition, it's the lie of the player's ball at rest. It's the area of intended stance. So you can't improve the lie. You can't improve the area of intended stance or area of intended swing. You can't, again, break branches. Can't improve the line of play or with limitations, the relief area where the player will drop or place a ball. So again, golf is an ancient game played in nature, and you play the course as you find it. You do not adjust the course to your liking or to your shot's liking. So that is part of the skill and fun of the game. So Rule 8 covers that. Actions that are not allowed: you can't move, bend, or break any growing or attached natural object. You cannot move an immovable obstruction, an integral or boundary object. You see a boundary stake, you cannot move that. Or you can't move the tee marker of your teeing area. That's intentionally. If you're clumsy like me, you might trip over the tee marker. It can be replaced. That's not a penalty, but you cannot move it to improve your cats. Actions that are not allowed: you can't move a loose impediment or a movable obstruction into position. So you can't put a leaf in front of your ball on the tee for your swing path, something like that. You can't alter the surface of the ground. And what does that mean? Well, you can't replace divots in a divot hole before your shot. Of course, after you make your shot, replace your divots. But if there's a divot that could affect your stroke, you're not allowed to replace it. That's a two-stroke penalty. Removing or pressing down divots that have been replaced. Unfortunately, a divot gets replaced, someone's walking, inadvertently kicks it, and your ball lands under it. Well, that is an unfortunate situation, but you can't do anything about it. You can't create or eliminate holes or uneven surfaces on the ground. Similarly, you cannot remove or press down sand or loose soil. So remember that. That's unless it's on the putting green. So you got sand or loose soil on the fringe. You're not allowed to move that. You're not allowed to remove dew, frost, or water on the anywhere on the golf course. So be aware of these rules. The intent is to play under natural conditions. This is part of the game of golf. Now there are.
One
Next
sec,
slide.
Don. I think
Don?
Gord wants to just jump in
Oh,
here.
good.
Yeah, I got a
Gordon?
question here, Don. Maybe back from 7, but when does this 3-minute search begin? I think that's a good question as to whether it's for the player or when you talked about or Rob talked about the parent getting there. That
Yeah.
If a caddy gets there, the time would start when that caddy's there. If you're in that area where your ball would be, that's when your time starts. So there's an interesting clarification under the search where you're not where you believe your ball will be, but it hit a tree, came back 50 yards, and now you kick your ball, but you're not yet to the area where you believe your ball is, and therefore you would get a penalty for moving your ball because you weren't in the process of searching. So that's a very important question there. When does that 3-minute search begin? And that's when you do get to that area.
Yeah, it's a reasonable time when the player gets there, and hopefully the caddy isn't running ahead. That could, right, because the actions of the caddy are the actions of the player. But they're allowed a reasonable amount of time to get there and then commence the search. And then you start timing. For Golf Manitoba events, you see all referees have a stopwatch. It's not for timing for pace of play. It's really we start the stopwatch when the player commences the search for their golf ball. And Gord, you raised a good question about a ball that came back and where the player wasn't searching and actually moved the ball. There was discussion last week that that may be one of the rules changes in 2027, that it you don't have to be searching for the ball. In those situations, the rules have changed a bit over the years, and where you can rectify a situation that is unintentional, generally you're allowed to do that without penalty, and that is one of the situations. Obviously, you're going to look for your ball. You're walking in that direction, and the fact that it is not where you may think it is uh, shouldn't necessarily penalize you. So just something to watch for in the future. Now, I see Ken Jones has asked, at the PNC this year, Bernhard Langer made a sand tee in the bunker and hit his driver out of the fairway bunker. How is that legal? Well, Ken, I did not see that. I don't know, Gord or Rob, if you saw that. I would say that that would be totally illegal, and I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, it's Gord here. I never saw that, but Bernard seems to get away with a lot of things that others don't. But I don't know. I can't speak to that. Sorry.
Okay, Rob, did you happen to be aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of that. I'm just trying to read about it now. So if I can
Okay, so Rob,
come up with something, I
you
will.
do your research, and we'll come back to you. So this is a very unfortunate situation. The ball appears to have come up against a partially replaced divot. So in this situation, the ball must be played as it lies, even though that is unfortunate. So. But there are things that you can do that are allowed. We've talked about fairly search for your ball. You can remove loose impediments and movable obstructions. You can mark your ball. You can ground your club lightly. The Hideki Matsuyama situation last year, where he was grounding his club behind the ball, and the ball seemed to be uh, uh, moving, and it was moving, but it was oscillating. It did not leave its spot, and therefore it was not a penalty. But yeah, you can ground your club lightly behind the ball. You can firmly place your feet, so you can dig in the sand, fairly take your stance, back in, you know, reasonably, if your ball is in the trees. You can make your stroke and backswing. And if you hit, uh, for example, if you got trees in your backswing, you hit it in your backswing when you're making your stroke, keep going, because you won't be penalized if you break a branch in that circumstance. But if you stop and it has improved your cats for your swing, then you could be penalized. In the teeing area, you can alter the ground. Why can you do that? Because it's before you commence play of the hole. So you can alter the surface. Laura Davies famously always stuck her club in the ground and created a bit of a mound that she teed off rather than using a tee. So you can alter the ground in the teeing area. In a bunker, you can rake sand after the ball is out. And in fact, you should rake sand after the ball is out, because the next player in there will greatly appreciate it. On a putting green, you can remove sand, soil, and fix damage. We'll talk about that when we go over putting greens, but reminder that sand, soil, fixed damage, if you got a ball mark in the fringe, you can't repair that. If it improves your cats, and sand and soil. And you can move a natural object to see if it is loose. So if it is a movable obstruct, or in this case, it would be a loose impediment because it's a natural object. You can see if it's loose or if it's still attached. Next slide. Okay, area where ball lies. I think this is a video.
Golf is a game played in the great outdoors, and sometimes that presents unique challenges in playing your ball as it lies. The rules don't allow you to make improvements to certain protected areas on the golf course, including the area where your ball lies. For example, pressing a club deep into the grass behind your ball, or the area where you intend to stand for your stroke, such as by moving, bending, or breaking anything attached or permanent. The rule also applies to the area of your intended swing, and anywhere along your line of play, such as smoothing out the path in front of you, brushing away sand or loose soil, or removing dew, frost, or water from the course. Additionally, the rules prohibit improvements in the relief area where a ball will be dropped or placed. However, there are exceptions to these restrictions, even if certain actions may cause some improvement, such as moving a branch a bit in the process of fairly taking your stance, being allowed to lightly ground your club behind the ball before playing, even though that might bend the grass behind it, and removing sand or loose soil on the putting green.
So the USGA has a bunch of really good videos. You go to the USGA
The rules
rules.
allow
Go ahead.
golf
You
is a game.
Audio trouble is temporary. Please stand by.
technical difficulties there. No, USGA has a lot of great rules videos on their rules hub, R&A as well. Encourage you to look at those. They're great summaries and can help you understand the rules. As I said, this is a process. Very experienced PGA players make errors. We all learn from them. Hopefully you only make the error once, or preferably you never make the error. But golf is a great game, and the application of the rules can assist the player. And Rob is going to go over those rules that can assist the player in enjoying their round and hopefully scoring low. So at this time, I think we're going to take a 5-minute break. Do we want, or do we want to go right into Rob's presentation?
Don, if I could I had one question here. If you
Yeah.
step on a ball accidentally when searching, are you allowed to improve the lie? The question I would have is improve the lie. If you certainly have to recreate the lie or put the ball back to where it was. So if you kick the ball 3 feet while searching, you put it back. But that also includes vertically. So if you step on a ball and it goes down 3 inches, then you would recreate that lie and put the ball back up 3 inches.
Mhm.
I realize that could be a bit of a challenge, but you must do your best job to recreate that lie.
Yeah, or if the lie is altered and it cannot be restored, then you have the option of, if you cannot recreate the lie, the ball is returned to play within the nearest most similar lie within 1 club length of the altered lie. So there is that option. If you step on a ball, you're not necessarily going to be able to dig it out and bring it back, restore it. Gord makes a great point. Moving the ball, it's not just from the spot, it includes vertical distance. So if the ball is on a tuft of grass and the action causes it to drop, that is, even though it drops straight down, that's still a movement of the ball that would have to be corrected and may be subject to penalty.
I just have a couple other things I'd like to comment on before we move on to Rob. Under equipment, I see all the time now, like playing sim golf, where players have the dots on their drivers or on their clubs because they're testing their swings and whatnot. be sure to remove those dots when you go into play competition. That's an automatic DQ. So, and that falls under equipment rules. You're not going to find that in the rule book. So, and it happens. There's just no question that it happens. The other thing is on mark lift, your ball, you're not required to notify your playing competitor, your opponent, but that is good practice. That used to be in the rules. It's changed, but I know it would have made my life a lot easier this year out in Thunder Bay had that been done. But regardless, I would always notify my player that you're going to, or a competitor or opponent, that you're going to lift that ball. And then finally, when Don talked about Rule 8, this is my community service announcement. There's one rule to read and know. It's Rule 8, 8.1A and 8.1B. It's a total of 2 pages. It's nothing. But it's just so easy to read and understand because, in my opinion, is the most abused or misunderstood section in that rule book. And it's so easy to read off that RNA or USGA website. And they have a link to the clarifications, which used to be called decisions, where it gives beautiful examples of what you can and can't do under that rule. That would be it's 2 pages, and you'll do well to read those.
I agree, Gord. That's an very important rule. It's one that can, unfortunately, cause a player a penalty, and it should be avoidable just by acting reasonably and understanding the rule. And yeah, sure, there's some situations where you just automatically go and remove sand off the fringe, but just to be aware of that can save you strokes. So
It's Ken Jones here. I just managed to look up my that Bernhard Langer situation, and actually, I didn't realize at the time that I saw this, but it was a scramble, the PNC father son or
right.
So it's a scramble. So they decided to use Bernhard's drive, which ended up in a bunker. And so they were able to move the ball within 1 club length.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a little clump of sand, apparently. So he put it right on top of the
Nice.
little clump of sand and then used his driver out of there. So
Mark,
I didn't realize it at the time, but there's the answer. So
he's a smart player,
He's a smart cookie.
as Gord said. Yeah, if it's a scramble, and there are rules of golf, rules 21 through 24, different forms of golf, which include stable for other foursome, four ball, all of those type team competitions that you should be aware of. Scramble is a form of golf, and sounds like Bernhard made a shrewd decision, and hopefully it worked out for him.
Well, it's
Thanks.
a real good point.
Yeah.
Don, because you mentioned about moving sand and whatnot, and I mean, you see it a lot now, desert golf or waste bunkers where you'll get a ball in there and then you'll start brushing that sand away from behind your ball to give yourself a little better lie. Well, as the rules indicate, sand and loose soil are not loose impediments unless it's on the green. So if you do that, you're now in breach of 8.1. So, you have to pick those grains of sand away as opposed to brushing it away. And because then it's a loose impediment as opposed to something else. So again, just you read that rule 8.1, you'll do well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point, Gord. Over to you, Rob. Do we want to take a break?
No.
No. Okay.
I think
Rob,
we're good.
go for it.
So we'll move on to some different special areas of the course, and then get into some relief options, both free and penalty relief. But starting with bunkers. Bunkers are, as Don mentioned, one of the 5 defined areas of the course. They're specially prepared areas of sand or other types of materials which is hollowed out. And the committee can define a prepared area of sand as part of the general area. So getting back to Ken's question, when I just looked that up quickly, it was actually the ball, all of the post mentioned bunkers, but it was defined as a naturally or a natural area. So it was more like a waste area, which allowed him to ground his club in there. So just knowing that when you're going through your notices to competitors or understanding the golf course, that can lead to some advantages for you. And then sometimes a bunker will be defined as ground under repair. We had that several times this year, just when bunkers were filled with water, where we take those bunkers out of play because they've become unplayable. And just becomes basic ground under repair. So areas not part of the bunker are the lip wall face at the edge of the prepared area, any soil or growing or attached soil growing or any attached natural objects inside the edges, sand that's spilled over or outside the edge. We see that sometimes where the sand pros go in and out of the bunker, and it looks like that bunker just keeps extending. We'll try and define an edge, but any of that sand that does spill outside the edge of the bunker is not in the bunker. And then, as we mentioned, other areas on the course that are defined as waste areas, deserts, etc. To decide or determine whether your ball is in the bunker, that image that's on there, a ball is in the bunker when any part of the ball touches sand on the ground inside the edge of the bunker. So that one ball clearly is in the bunker. Or it rests on ground where sand normally would be. So if sand has been, worn down because players haven't raked the bunker after being in there, and it's kind of getting down to where you might see, clay or whatnot. Just because the sand's not there, if sand was meant to be there, that ball is still in the bunker. Or as you can see on the rake there, if it's on a loose impediment or a movable obstruction, or in an abnormal course condition, then it is considered to be in the bunker. If it lies on soil or grass, so like that island in the middle there, just because that's in the edges of the bunker, it is not in the bunker because it's lying on soil or grass. And a ball that's on the lip there, that's not part of the bunker. So that's a little bit more rare here, but you might see some bunkers that have steep faces that a ball might get caught up on there. Probably happens a little bit more over in Europe where it's layered with the sod laid on top of each other, but that ball isn't in the bunker. Next slide, please, Muncie.
Locked up. Give me 1 sec here.
No worries. So when you're playing the ball and you're in the bunker, things that you can do, you can remove loose impediments. So if there's leaves, rocks, any other type of loose impediment that's there, you are able to remove those. You can remove movable obstruction. So there's always a lot of discussion about where rakes should be. We try to keep rakes outside of the bunker when we're running our events, just because it can make it hard to replace a ball. If a rake is left up on an edge and you can't get the ball to sit there, there can be some other concerns with that. And you can touch the sand in some situations. So you are able to touch the sand in certain situations. Main thing is, as Gord had talked and Don had talked with the cats, that there's no improvement to your conditions that are affecting your stroke. Things that you can't do, you can't deliberately touch the sand to test the condition. So you can't test by putting a tee into the sand or doing anything else to try and determine what the condition of the sand is like. You can't touch the sand in the bunker with a club in the area right in front or right behind the ball, unless you are fairly searching for the ball or you're removing a loose impediment or a movable obstruction. But again, you need to be careful doing that you're not improving the conditions affecting your stroke. Pardon me, you can't touch it when you're doing that, and you can't touch it when you're making a practice swing or making a backswing for the stroke. Once the ball is out of the bunker, you are able to touch the sand without penalty. As Don had mentioned, we hope that you smooth the sand in the bunker, just in general care for the course. That's true even if balls come to rest outside the bunker and you you elect to take stroke and distance relief by dropping the ball in the bunker. So if you've hit the ball from the bunker into a situation where you're taking an unplayable lie, you've elected to go back to that bunker, you are able to care for the course. Okay, go ahead there.
The rules allow many special permissions on the putting green that you don't get anywhere else on the course. And while you can't repair aeration holes, natural surface imperfections, or any normal wear on the green, there is plenty you can do. Marking, lifting, and cleaning your ball is always permitted. It's okay to repair most damage, such as ball marks, spike marks, hole plugs, and anything caused by shoes and animals. Sand and loose soil can be removed even when it's on your line of play. All those fixes must be done promptly and must not improve your line of play beyond the repair. Finally, you or your caddy are allowed to touch the green when pointing where you expect to putt.
All right, so as that indicated, the rules do allow you to do things on the putting green that you're not normally allowed to do off the putting green, such as mark, lift, clean, and replace a ball, to repair damage and remove sand and loose soil on the putting green. And on the putting green, there's no penalty for accidentally causing a ball or ball marker to move. In repairing, divots, a ball mark that's going in, if the ball mark is on the putting green, we're hopeful that everybody is repairing those things. But if a ball mark is half on the putting green and half off the putting green, you're still able to repair that. So when we're looking at things that might improve your conditions affecting your stroke, your line of play, if that is on the putting green, you are still able to repair it, even if your ball has landed on and come back off of the putting green. So that's something that's good to know. Balls on the putting green, when any part of the ball touches the putting green, lies in or on anything such as a loose impediment or an obstruction, and is inside the edge of the putting green. Rule 13.1b allows you to mark, lift, and clean your ball in the putting green. As Gord had mentioned and Don had mentioned, anytime you are lifting your ball, you must mark it, and it must be replaced on its original spot. When you have the ball lifted, you are able to clean it. And when you replace the ball on its original spot, before you play the ball, you need to remove that ball marker before you make a stroke. The flag stick, you are now, as everybody's knows, allowed to leave the flag stick in the hole, so it's possible that the ball in motion will hit the flag stick. You must decide this before making a stroke. Leaving a flag stick where it is in the hole, or moving it so it's centered in the hole and leaving it there. So you are able to go and center the flag stick if it is leaning because it wasn't returned to its place properly, and then you can leave it in there. You can have a removed flag stick put back in the hole prior to making your stroke, and there's no penalty if the ball hits the flag stick. If the ball is resting against the flag stick after making a stroke, if any part of the ball is in the hole below the surface of the putting green, the ball is treated as whole, even if the entire ball isn't below the surface. So that ball in the picture there would be considered whole because some of it is below the surface of the green. If no part of the ball is in the hole below the surface of the green, the ball is not holed and it must be played as it lies. If the flag stick is removed and the ball then falls in, then there's no penalty and the ball must be replaced on the lip of the hole. So we still want to make sure that you are holding out on every hole. Don mentioned wrong green. So a wrong green is a part of the general area, but it is a place where you need to take relief from. So it's not a choice. Relief must be taken from a wrong green. Interference exists from a wrong green when any part of the ball touches the wrong green or lies in or on anything that's inside the edge of a wrong green. So that's a key thing. If your ball is lying in or on a movable obstruction, we'll deal with that, and I'll talk about dealing with that a little later, but it's still, its space relates to the area directly under that, so it'd still be on that wrong green. The ball, you do have interference from a wrong green if the wrong green physically interferes with your stance. So where A is, the ball may be off that green, but the stance is still being affected from that. So we still are going to be in a situation where we do take relief. So if the ball is not physically on, but our stance is affected by that wrong green, then we must take relief. When you take relief, your reference point is going to be the nearest point of complete relief in the same area of the course where the ball, where the ball would come to rest. So you might have a situation when we talk about relief areas, where there may be a bunker close to a green as well as part of the general area. So your relief area, which is indicated there in that little pie shape, might include two parts of the course. Whichever part of the course the ball touches first when it drops, the ball must stay in that area. So if your ball dropped in the general area and rolled down into the bunker, we would get you to redrop. So you want to make sure you're understanding that, and hopefully we're there to help you out through it as you go there. But big thing is that we want to make sure we're taking complete relief. There is no relief, and this is a common thing with all rules when relief is clearly unreasonable. So when you're choosing a stance or a club or a swing or direction of play that's clearly unreasonable under the circumstances, then relief would not be free in that instance. And if we do take a bad drop or we play from a wrong place, you're in breach of this rule and you would get a general penalty under Rule 14.7. Joint, what about, so there's a question, what about joined greens? Still okay to put the putt to the correct pin? So depends how the joined green is defined. Sometimes the joined green would just be one big green, so it is still okay, even though it might be for the if you're playing the 12th hole and it's joined with the 10th hole, if you're on the 10th hole side, you're still able to putt to the 12th pin if it's defined that way. Sometimes Corey Oaks in particular, can't remember what hole it is, but sometimes we will we'll put stakes across the green, dividing the two double greens or the joined greens into two halves, and the one half would become a wrong green. So then we would take relief as kind of discussed under the rules in 13.1F. So hopefully that helps. Free relief. Okay, so this is the best kind of relief that you can get. Nearest point of complete relief. We'll watch this video.
First step in taking relief from conditions such as ground under repair, temporary water, or immovable obstructions is to find the nearest point of complete relief, no closer to the hole. This location is the spot either left of, right of, or behind your ball where the condition you are taking relief from no longer interferes with your stance or swing. You determine this spot by simulating the stance, swing, and direction of play you would use to play your ball if the condition didn't exist. The nearest point can change based on a variety of things, including whether you're right or left-handed, your height, or your choice of club. In this case, the player's nearest point of complete relief from the cart path is not to the left in the clear, but rather under the tree. It's good practice to figure out your options before lifting your ball, because sometimes playing it as it lies might be the best choice.
I love the last part of that video where it talks about leaving your ball in place and going through your options prior to prior to picking it up, because sometimes the nearest point of complete relief isn't the best point of complete relief. And that's something that sometimes is hard to swallow when you go through that. So we want to make sure that it's the point nearest to the ball's original spot that's not near the hole in the required area of the course, where there's no interference from the condition which the relief is being taken. So if you still have interference from that condition, then we would try and get you to measure again. So if you're taking relief from a cart path, for example, and you drop the ball and you go to address the ball and your heels are still on the cart path, we would want to redrop that to make sure you're taking complete relief. When you're doing that, we want you to identify, we'll ask you what club would you use for the shot. So it's not always going right to the driver. Often people try and get as far off of that as they can. But we're going to get you to use the club that you would use for the shot, find that nearest point of complete relief, and then we would give you the club length, which typically would be your driver after that. So if you're 100 yards from the hole, we're going to get you to take that stance with your wedge, likely, and then we would put a tee down where the head of your the toe of the head of your wedge is, and then we would do a club length from there. So we don't always want to jump straight to the driver. And we want to make sure we look at the stance, swing, and line of play that we'd use as we go through that. It relates to the condition that you are taking relief from. So in the picture that's on there, we're taking relief from a immovable obstruction, being the cart path. If that complete relief puts you into a different situation, we would then take relief from the second situation separately. So we're not going to do everything at once right from the outset. Yeah, and it's just clear, like the nearest point of complete relief is relief from the condition, but doesn't guarantee an unobstructed stance, swing, or lie of the ball. That is a very long putt, Gord. Yeah, that's all your body into that putt, 105-yard long putt. When you drop the ball, you may use the original ball or another ball. So you don't have to use your original ball when you drop it. Sometimes you're not able to get it back. Sometimes you've left the ball in place and you go and you can drop another ball where it is. Must be dropped in the right way, which means that it's going to meet 3 requirements. You must drop the ball. The player must drop the ball, not the caddy, not anybody else. Must be dropped straight down from knee height. So height of the player's knee when standing, without touching the player or equipment. So we're going to drop straight down, no spin, no rolling, or any other motion that could affect the ball. Doesn't touch any part of the player's body equipment before it hits the ground. If it happens to rest against there after, then that's going to be okay. And it must be dropped in the relief area. So it must hit the relief area when it hits the ground. If it drops outside the relief area and rolls in, then we would get you to redrop it under Rule 14, which we would talk about in the next session. If you don't drop again when the ball's not dropped properly and make a stroke, then it would be a 1-stroke penalty if played from inside the relief area, but you haven't played from a wrong place. And it's a 2-stroke penalty, or the general penalty, if it was dropped incorrectly and played from outside the relief area. Relief from loose impediments and movable obstructions, Rule 15, describes when and how a player may take relief from loose impediments and movable obstructions. They are movable and natural objects, not treated as part of the challenge of playing the course, and you're normally allowed to remove them when they interfere with play. You need to be careful when moving loose impediments, be near your ball or off the putting green, because there is a penalty if moving them causes the ball to move. So when you're moving anything around your golf ball, be very careful, because if the ball does move it, you would be responsible for moving it and would be subject to penalty. So you may move a loose impediment anywhere on or off the golf course. You may do so in any way. You can use your hand, your foot, club, other equipment. getting help from others would be acceptable. I don't think I would suggest that because you're responsible for the action of others. If the ball moves when removing loose impediments, the ball must be replaced on its original spot, and if it's not in the putting green, the player gets 1 penalty stroke. Can you move ahead, Brent, please? Yeah, so got to be careful when you're moving that. Movable obstructions. Players may remove a movable obstruction anywhere on or off the golf course. If the ball moves while removing a movable obstruction, there is no penalty and the ball must be replaced. So the difference between loose impediment and the movable obstruction is if your ball does move, you're able to replace the ball. So that ball lying against the rake, if the ball does move when the rake is moved, we would place that ball back where it was. If it's resting against it, there's no penalty. We're going to replace the ball back on its original spot. And if you don't know its original spot, we're going to estimate that.
Rob, there was the question about the rakes in the bunker
Yep.
and clarified that. So if that rake is in the bunker and the ball is resting against it, and when you remove the rake, you cannot replace the ball so that it stays in a spot that's not near the hole. You can't press the ball down into the sand. Then you're going to be, and you have to take the ball out of the bunker, then you're going to be penalized. And that's the reason why rakes are not to be in the bunkers, certainly during competitions. I know a number of golf courses do that. So this situation is completely different because it's in the general area, and even though it's on a slope, if the rake is removed, they just find the nearest spot where the ball will remain at rest, and it could be, it could be 5 yards back of that if it was a very steep slope. So so there's no confusion between this situation and the question that was answered in the chat.
Rob, just before you go on, there is another question there. Would a bench be considered a movable obstruction? And if you're capable of moving it, then it's movable. And I don't want to sound facetious here, but if you're incapable of moving, then it becomes an immovable obstruction. But if the area around that bench is not good for a drop and you're capable of moving the bench, then by all means move it. Again, if you're incapable of moving it, then it becomes an immovable obstruction and you get free relief regardless. And just one other thing before moving on, while you're on this topic here, because you were talking about loose impediments, and although there's, our rules that we're running through here, but keep in mind that there are specific rules that are based on definition alone. Like we were talking about loose impediment. So there's some 70 something definitions which can dictate a rule on it. And a perfect example is a loose impediment where we were talking about sand and loose soil. Anyways, sorry to interrupt there.
No, thank you very much. So if, as we kind of talked about there, if it's resting against that rake and you move the rake and the ball moves, we're going to replace it on its original spot or somewhere that as close as possible to that we can get the ball to rest. If it's on a movable obstruction or in a movable obstruction, we're going to take free relief by lifting the ball and removing the movable obstruction. Now, instead of replacing, because that ball hasn't owned a spot on the ground yet, instead of replacing, we're going to drop the original ball or another ball in the relief area. So the reference point would be our estimated point underneath where the ball was sitting on that Kleenex or handkerchief or whatever. My towel, I guess, probably is the more likely. So we're going to estimate the spot directly under that. And then we would be able to drop that ball within 1 club length in the same area of the course again. So if it was in a bunker, we would drop it in the bunker. If it was in the general area, we would drop it in the general area, but it's not near the hole in the reference point. Only difference is if it's in or on a movable obstruction on the putting green rather than dropping it, we would place on the putting green. If a ball or ball marker is helping or interfering with play on the putting green, we're going to mark the position and lift the ball. You can mark, lift your ball, or have somebody move theirs, but the ball must be replaced on its original spot. In stroke play, you can play first instead of lifting the ball. If it was match play, you would not want to play at a turn because the player could recall that shot. You cannot leave your ball in place to help any player, so we're not going to deliberately leave the ball in place where it could provide a backstop for the ball. So if it was behind the ball to where my playing partner was, or my fellow competitor was playing to, I cannot intentionally or deliberately leave my ball with the intent of it stopping. And if that happens, both players get the general penalty if they made an agreement. So best practice is to mark that ball so that nobody questions that. If it's helping or ball marker helping or interfering anywhere on the course, so if the ball interferes with players' area of intended stance or area of intended swing, or is close to the player's line of play, given the intended stroke, or there's a reasonable chance the player's ball in motion could hit that ball, you are able to ask for that ball to be marked. So you can require the other player to mark the spot of the ball and lift the ball. When that happens, because you're not on the putting green, you're not entitled to clean the ball. So make sure that it is not cleaned. So a lot of people, you'll see them just holding the ball within 2 fingers and not rotating it, not making any signs that you're trying to clean it. So don't take that ball and put it in your pocket. Don't throw it to your caddy and give them an opportunity to clean it. Sometimes the best practice is just take it and put it down on the grass and then step away from it so that there's no confusion on whether you might have cleaned it. If the ball is not marked or if it was cleaned, the player gets 1 penalty stroke whose ball it was. In stroke play, a player required to lift a ball may play first instead. So just with pace of play. Abnormal course conditions and immovable obstructions. So that's rule 16. Again, we're talking about free relief, where we're playing a ball from a different place, such as when there's interference by an abnormal course condition or dangerous animal condition. They're not treated again as part of playing the course, and free relief is generally allowed except in the penalty area. So cart paths, the different types of things. We're going to take relief by dropping a ball in a relief area based on the nearest point of complete relief. So for a ball that's in the general area, the reference point, again, nearest point of complete relief, and we're going to use that 1 club length relief area. So again, interference by an abnormal condition exists when any of these are true. So if a player's ball touches or is in an abnormal course condition, so here it is on a yardage marker. It could be a white painted area that we have defined as relief areas. Abnormal course conditions physically interfere with the player's area of intended stance or swing. So that player's ball is on the yardage marker. If the ball was on grass, but their feet were on the yardage marker, they would still be entitled for relief. There's a really good clip of Justin Thomas from the PGA Championship where he is, it's a drain that his ball is not on and his stance didn't get affected by it, but there was some concern whether or not his swing may be affected by it and his follow through after he took a divot, and he determined that it didn't affect his swing and elected to play it, but I don't think he was pleased with how that played out. So it affects your intended stance or area of your intended swing. You'd still be entitled to relief. When you're on the putting green, an abnormal course condition on or off the putting green intervenes on the line of play. So that's a little bit different. When you are in the putting green, there could be an abnormal condition off the putting green that interferes with your line of play. There is no interference if the abnormal course condition is close enough to distract the player, but does not meet any of the above requirements. So that's the situation where Justin Thomas, he talked to a rules official. They determined that it didn't qualify for free relief, and then he didn't hit a very good shot after that. So this exists anywhere but in a penalty area, and there's no relief when clearly unreasonable. Temporary water, that's an accumulation of water on the surface of the ground. Could be puddles from rain or irrigation, an overflow of a body of water. It is not a penalty area. Can be seen before or after a player takes their stance without pressing down excessively. And that's changed a little bit in terms of how that's been defined. And a lot of people will get over a ball and they'll start kind of dancing around a little bit and try and drumming up some water to come up. But after you take that stance, if that water goes back down, you're not in a situation where there is temporary water. So that temporary water needs to be visible either before or after you take your stance and remain visible. It's not enough for ground to be wet, muddy, soft, or for water to only be momentarily visible. Dew and frost are not temporary water. Snow and natural ice are either loose impediments or when they're on the ground, temporary water at the player's discretion, and manufactured ices and obstructions. So, free relief from an abnormal course condition in the general area. So the ball's in the general area. Nearest point of complete relief, very similar to when we had that abnormal course condition. 1 club length from the reference point, not near the hole. Then the reference point, and must be in the general area. So that in that picture there, it's right behind, and it would be 1 club length either side and back. And you must take complete relief from all interference by the abnormal course condition. So temporary water, you may find that you travel a little bit trying to find that nearest point of complete relief. And again, that can put you into a better situation, or it could also take you into a situation where you're dropping into, longer, thicker, wetter grass. If it is on the putting green, it's a little bit different. We had this situation at Minnedosa this year. So you are still entitled to free relief, and you will be taking the free relief by placing the ball on the nearest point of complete relief. So we're going to move to where we can find a line of play that doesn't have interference from that abnormal course condition on the putting green. So whether the ball was behind and you had to putt through, or whether the ball was in, we would help to move you to a situation where our nearest point of complete relief takes you away from that situation. If there is no nearest point of complete relief, you may take free relief by using the point of maximum available relief, either on the putting green or in the general area. So you may still have to go through it a little bit, but it'll definitely be less effect on your shot. So again, that nearest point of complete relief could be on the putting green, or it could be in the general area as well. In a bunker, oh, hang on. You're surprising me here, Munzie. Yeah, so in a bunker, so now we have an abnormal course condition that's in a bunker, so there is still free relief. The reference point is the nearest point of complete relief and must be in the bunker. So if your ball is in the bunker, and that's important to determine where your ball is, if it's in the bunker, it must remain in the bunker when you take that relief. Unless we'll talk about the one exception there. So you're going to drop the ball in the 1 club length relief area. And again, if there's no nearest point of complete relief, you may take free relief by using the point of maximal available relief as the reference point. And again, the ball must be dropped. And when we check the course in the mornings, we look at this, and if there's been a lot of rain or a lot of water, that's a situation where if you can't get relief in the bunker because of the temporary water, those are situations where we may take a bunker out of play. We may make the entire bunker ground under repair, and that'll be either posted likely at the scores or at the starters table, because we hopefully wouldn't do it for the entire tournament. But we would communicate that out to players. So in this situation here, you have a situation where there's not going to be, by the looks of it, complete relief. So there is an area of maximum available relief in the bunker. But the player may determine to take the ball out of the bunker for a penalty of 1 stroke. So there is penalty relief for ball in a bunker that's in an abnormal course condition. It's 1 stroke, so we're going to keep the point of the ball between the original ball between you and the hole, and we're going to go back on a line. No limit again how far you go back. We're going to go not near the hole in the spot of the original ball. It may be in any area of the course except the same bunker, and it must be, when you drop it, it must stay in the area of the course that it first struck on. So again, if it rolls from the general area into a penalty area, we would redrop. And if it did that again, then you would be able to place the ball. Okay. So we've gone through that. So ball, that's a good question. So what about a ball lost in a water-filled bunker? So the key thing there is the known or virtual certainty. So Mary, you would have to have 95% certainty that ball was lost in the water-filled bunker to be able to move forward with that. So if the ball was lost in that water-filled bunker, we would then estimate where that ball was, and we would take relief from there. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Could you
Rob, do you
go
see that
to-
next one?
Yeah, I'm just trying to read through it. Unless you want to grab it. Could you go to the
Could you go to the left, even if you have to stand outside the bunker or only backwards away? Yeah, your positioning is your ball. You
Yeah.
can always play a ball in a bunker by standing outside. So you could certainly do that. I think a good point that you were saying, Rob, about you must take full relief. And you'll see often like taking relief from an abnormal course condition, using a cart path, for example, where you take relief from the cart path, you drop, and you've got this absolutely marvelous lie for your second shot to that par 5 green, and it's absolutely perfect. And you got an inch or so of your heel still touching that cart path, and you're going, it's not that much, it's not going to affect my swing. Well, you haven't taken full relief, and you play that shot, and now you're looking at a 2-stroke penalty or loss of hole, which under 14, which we haven't discussed, but it brings up a whole nother ball of wax about whether it's a serious breach or not a serious breach, where it could lead to a disqualification. So you must take full relief when you're going to take relief.
So then, Ruth, just that second part. So again, yeah, if you drop your ball but your stance is out of the bunker, then you're okay, because your ball is still in the area of the course where you intended to drop. For that free relief, when you're going backwards on the line from a bunker, so you would be bringing the ball. I'm assuming you're bringing the ball out of the bunker for 1 penalty stroke. In that situation, our reference point is going to be on a line that keeps the original spot of our ball between us and the flag, and we can go back on that line as far as we want. So the reference point would be the line coming back, and you would drop the ball, and it would need to settle into a relief area that is 1 club length in a 360-degree circle. So hopefully that helps you answer that question.
Ready to roll for the drop zone?
So, well, can you go back to the bunker picture? Um, so this one here, so yeah, so I get what you're asking, Ruth. Um, so you could find a nearest point of relief. If you were a left-handed player, the way this water is sitting, and you think you could drop it into that little area to the right side of the right side of the bunker that still has some sand, but your stance is outside, then you would be able to drop it there. So that would be dropping in the bunker with free relief. If you could get it into the other side for sure, but if that water covered that entire area and there was no sand, your option would either be trying to take maximal available relief, or then if you can't find that or you're not happy with that, you could come back on the line at a 1-stroke penalty. So hopefully that helps it out. Okay. Yeah, let's go on to penalty areas.
We'll run the video here first.
Yep.
Okay.
Penalty areas include any body of water on the golf course, plus any other area marked by red or yellow stakes or lines. If you happen to find your ball in a penalty area, you can always play it as it lies. Before playing a stroke, it's okay to ground your club, take practice swings that touch the ground, and move loose impediments. If you choose to take relief, the color of the stakes will indicate how many options are available, but all come with one penalty stroke. The first option is stroke and distance, which means you can go back to the spot where you last played. The second is to imagine a straight line from the hole through the point where your ball last crossed the edge of the penalty area and drop on that line behind it. Your ball can roll up to one club length in any direction from where it first struck the course, including forward. You have a third relief option available only if your ball winds up in a red penalty area, which allows you to drop within 2 club lengths of where your ball last crossed into that penalty area, no closer to the hole. There may also be an area marked as a dropping zone that could be available as an additional option.
Okay, so there are 2 types of penalty areas. There's yellow penalty areas or red penalty areas. You'll more commonly see red penalty areas as you play. In all penalty areas, as they said, you may play the ball as it lies. You can treat it the same as the general area, so you can ground your club, you can remove loose impediments, or you are able to take penalty relief outside of the penalty area. Really important that known or virtual certainty. That is really key when we're dealing with penalty areas, because we need to be 95% sure that that's where your ball is. A lot of times you can see it go in, but sometimes if it's, a longer shot or a blind shot, you may not know where that ball is. So we need to be known or virtually certain that the ball is in the in the penalty area, whether it's red or yellow. As the video said, there's 3 options for a red penalty area. You always have the option, no matter whether it's red or yellow, to go back to where you played your last shot from. So if you hit it in from 1, you always have the option to go back to 1. The other option that you have for both red or yellow is to keep the point where the ball entered the penalty area. So the last point that it crossed the penalty area, the line, keep that ball between you and the hole and go back on a line as far as you want. And again, when you do that, the relief area looks a little different because you create a reference point with the line. And when you drop that ball, it can roll up to a club length in any direction. So it's a 360-degree drop area there, because you're already gone back further than where you were. If the ball hits the ground and moves a little bit forward, staying in that relief area, you're going to be okay. And then with the red penalty area, the third option is to take the point where the ball crossed the margin of the penalty area and take 2 club lengths from there, no closer to the hole, and creating kind of a little pie-shaped area for you to drop the ball in there. Important thing is it's not where your ball is, it's where your ball last crossed the margin of the penalty area, and that's for 1 stroke. If it's yellow, you just have the 2 relief options. You either can go back to where you hit your last shot from and drop the ball, or you can use the back on the line relief, keeping that point where your ball crossed between you and the hole, and go back as far as you would like.
Good to roll.
Yep.
If you hit your ball out of bounds or lose it,
It's going right.
the rules require you to play another one from where you last played under the penalty of stroke and distance. Stroke and distance is your only option for a ball that winds up out of bounds or is lost unless an optional local rule provides an alternative. If you have any uncertainty about your ball being lost or out of bounds, consider playing a provisional ball from your original spot.
I think I'm gonna hit a provisional.
Because looking for a ball only to have to return to the previous spot can disrupt the pace of play. If your previous stroke was made from the tee, simply tee it up again. If you last played from the fairway, the rough, a bunker, or penalty area, drop a ball within 1 club length of the spot where your last stroke was made, making sure not to move closer to the hole. If you happen to find your ball inbounds within the 3-minute search time, great.
Hey, I found my ball. Can someone pick up my positional ball, please?
But if you can't find your ball, or it indeed winds up out of bounds, just play on with the provisional. But remember, you're not allowed to play a provisional when the only place your original ball could be lost is in a penalty area. When this happens, you must instead use one of the options under penalty area relief.
So a ball is lost when all of the ball is outside the boundary edge of the course, as defined by the committee. It is inbounds when any part of the ball lies on or touches the ground or anything else inside the boundary edge. You may stand out of bounds to play a ball that's on the course. If the out of bounds is marked by stakes, the boundary edge is defined by the line between the course side points of the stake at ground level, and the stakes themselves are out of bounds. So if you look at that diagram on the left, the ball on the top and the middle ball are still touching part of the golf course, so they are inbounds. The ball at the bottom that's red there, it is not touching any part of the course, so it is out of bounds. Even if it is touching the line itself is out of bounds. So the line is with the inside edge of those stakes. Similarly, on the right side, that's the line. So that ball that is fully lying on the line but not touching any part of the course would be out of bounds. So the top 2 balls are still touching part of the golf course, so they would be inbounds. As the video said, if the ball is lost or out of bounds, you're going to take stroke and distance relief. That is 1 penalty stroke. Always feels like 2, but it is just 1 because you are giving up distance as well. And you're going to play the ball from where your previous stroke was made. The new rules. So most courses have adopted this next rule that's going to come up here, which for stroke and distance is really just primarily concerned with pace of play. So hopefully people are becoming familiar with this. This is for general course play. This wouldn't be for, typically wouldn't be for competitions. But if you have hit a ball out of bounds, you're going to determine the spot where your ball went out of bounds. So similar to where you would with a penalty area, where did it cross the out of bounds? Where did it leave the course? So that diagram on the left, it left the course at the point A, and then you're going to find the nearest fairway edge. So you're going to look to where the fairway edge, that's point B, and you're going to drop the ball in the shaded area, which is anywhere from that line from A to B. Drop the ball in the shaded area is defined on one side by a line from the hole through the point A and the other side by a line from the hole through the point B, and not near the hole. The relief area is extended on both sides by 2 club lengths. So, you can probably get it out towards the fairway with this. So that's going to help you out. On the other side, if the ball is lost, again, you're going to estimate that point where the ball is lost as point A. You're going to bring that to the edge of the fairway, point B, and then you get 2 club lengths on each side. So in that situation for a lost ball, you're actually going to be able to drop that ball on the fairway. If you're playing in a tournament, it's not just general member play. This rule likely wouldn't be in place. So just make sure with the notice competitor that the competition that you have that that is being used or not being used. Provisional ball. So again, that video talked about a provisional ball. That's another ball played just in case the ball is out of bounds or lost outside a penalty area. You must announce your intention. So it's not just good enough to say to put another ball on the tee and hit it. You must inform your competitors that you are going to play another ball. My public service announcement is you cannot hit a provisional ball if you believe the ball is in a penalty area. So that in the video, it was very clear that that ball was in the penalty area. The second that player drops that ball and plays it, that is the ball in play. And that unfortunately comes up a few times a year, where a player hits a provisional ball because their ball is gone into a penalty area, and in effect, they've just taken stroke and distance relief from penalty area, and that ball's back in play. So they've played their third shot from the tee as opposed to going up and using one of the other relief options. So just be careful. If there's doubt, say that you've played your provisional ball because you believe your ball is lost outside the penalty area. So if it's in question, just be careful on that one. So when you play your original ball, if you think it's lost in the bush, you hit a provisional ball to point A. Point A is farther from the hole than where your original ball is. So you are able to play your second shot with your provisional ball prior to go looking for that ball. That typically won't happen in the tournaments that we're refereeing. But if you're playing at your club for place of play, you can play that ball. If you went up to point B and played from point B, you've now played your provisional ball at a point closer to where your original ball was lost. Your provisional ball is now your ball in play. So pace of play wise, you're able to hit that provisional ball a second time if maybe you didn't hit it very well. But just be conscious about where your original ball is so that you don't make your provisional your ball in play. Last rule, unplayable ball. So we're going to cover release. Yeah, go ahead.
Gord here. Can I just jump quick on that provisional one with the ball in the water? And as you say, it comes up all the time, and it keys that one word that you said you believe your ball is not in there. And oftentimes you might play a course for the first time where your tee shot is blind. You come and you hit it right, you sort of see some trees. I'm going to hit a provisional. I don't know what's over there. Then you come up over the hill and you find there's a penalty area there. And now, do you have to play that provisional? And the answer is no. I mean, you can go and look, and if you find that ball in the water, you go, hey, it has to be in the water based on, there's just no other option here. You have virtual certainty. Then you would proceed under Rule 17 on the penalty area. And if you don't find the ball, it might be an option. I always think of 10 at Steinbach, where you've got that water down the left side, and you can't tell whether it's in there, but it could be in there, or it could be lost outside. So you do hit a provisional. In that case, you don't find your ball, it's lost. You can't just say, oh, if it's not here, therefore it must be in the water. So I think it's key. It goes back to that one word you did mention there, that you believe it's not in there. So
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And that whole known or virtual certainty is really, that's what we have to go by. And we've had situations where, a player started looking everywhere but in a penalty area, and then decided that the ball was in the penalty area. And unfortunately, because there was not that 95% certainty that that's where the ball was, the player had to go back to where the last shot was coming, or stroking distance. So that's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, number 4 at Larders is famous for that. If it's, you just can't use the premise. If it's not here, then it's in there. It just doesn't work that way. So,
And that situation Gordon
Yeah.
talked about, where, you know, it's a blind shot, you come up there, you didn't know there was water there, that works in round 1. It doesn't work in round 2. So you just got to be careful on those things.
good point.
Yeah. Okay, unplayable ball. So player's the only person who can decide to treat their balls unplayable. You can declare a ball unplayable anywhere on the course except in a penalty area. If it's unplayable in a penalty area, your only option is take penalty area relief. There's 3 options for relief, all under penalty of 1 stroke. So you can take 2 club lengths, no closer to the hole, as in number 3 there. That's, you know, typically the first option. And that goes, you know, both ways as well as backwards. You can go back on the line, keep that point between you and the hole, and go straight back as far as you want. And again, we have that 360-degree relief area from the reference point where that ball first touches the ground. And then number 1 on here, but probably number 3 in every player's decision as they process that, is to go back to where your last shot came from. So I can't emphasize enough that sometimes going back to where you hit your last shot is going to give you your best out. When we're helping, we give you all the options. We can't tell you what the best option is, but having seen a lot of tournament golf, and I know giving up distance is something none of us want to do, but sometimes going back to 1 is our best option. So don't forget that when you're going through unplayable lies. If it's in the bunker, so again, we have the normal relief options. So we have stroke and distance, back on the line. In this situation for the bunker, when we go back on the line, you only go back on the line as far as you can in that bunker. So if you have a ball that's you know, buried in a bunker, and you want to take an unplayable, you can go out of the bunker, you can go stroke and distance. That's always an option. But if you take back on the line or lateral relief, so option 2 or 3 in that other diagram, and there'll be a diagram coming up here, the ball must stay in the bunker unless you want to take an additional penalty stroke. So I think the next one, Brian, has, yeah, so the extra relief option is dropping outside the bunker on back of the line for 2 penalty strokes. And I think there's a diagram on that. So if that ball is buried in the lip of that bunker, it's still in the bunker. For 1 stroke, you can go back to where you hit your last shot. You can go back on the line or stay in the bunker, or you can use your lateral relief with 2 club lengths, but that has to stay in the bunker. If you don't want to go back to where you hit your last shot, maybe it's a carry over water, you know, something else, and you want to go back on the line from where that ball is and come out of the bunker, then that costs you an additional stroke. So 2 penalties for number 4. And that is it. Sorry, I went a little over there.
Any questions for anybody?
I would just make a comment, everyone. One of the questions I get on the golf course is, do I get 1 club length relief or 2 club lengths relief? And just remember, if you're paying for it with a penalty stroke, it is 2 club lengths. If it is a situation where you are not, where it's an immovable obstruction, abnormal course condition, it is no, and there's no penalty, then it is 1 club length. So that is a very common question, but it is easily resolved by keeping in mind that that rule. If you're paying for it, you get the extra club length.
I just have it's Gord here. The one video, it talked about damage on a putting green and that we don't get relief from aeration holes. which is something probably a lot of us are going to experience when we first get out there at the beginning of the year, is aeration holes. So there certainly is a model local rule that would give you relief from that. But I would talk to, if you're playing with your buddies or whatever, what are we doing with aeration holes today? Do we get relief from them or not? Because typically you do not. So just something to keep in mind. And I think I mentioned quickly, but I know on my phone I have the RNA and the USGA apps, and I use them so much. And it gives you that link to the rules, and secondly to the clarifications, which is a million well, not a million, but a pile of examples under each section, and it's so useful. I use it so much when I'm giving rules or doing tournaments. So
Yeah, even just for the basics, the diagrams that were in this presentation, most of those diagrams will show up in there as well.
Quick
I have a question there. Can we use the apps to give a ruling? For sure. The rules is public knowledge, so you can certainly access that. You would not be able to access swing tips or something to that effect, but if you're asking or needing a ruling, by all means. So yeah, you would just have to explain that if you're ever questioned it. You know, if you've got your phone open to chipping by Mickelson, you might have an issue there, but yeah, I think you're certainly fine using the rules. The rules are public knowledge. So
Yeah, there's an additional question. If ball is in water hazard penalty area, do you have to use a drop zone if there is one? No, the drop zone is an additional option for the player. You have the other relief options under the depending on what type of penalty area, whether it's red or yellow.
that's a great question. It happened to us in the club championship at my home course years ago when the penalty area was Rule 26, and the notice the competitor said to a ball in a water proceed under Rule 26, and guys were going to the drop zone. And me being the rules nerd knew that was an additional option, and it caused some controversy there. But it is an additional option, as Don says. So.
All right. Anybody else? We've eclipsed the 100-minute mark here, and we know there's been lots of information tonight. So just a reminder, we'll probably have this up on YouTube sometime tomorrow. So feel free to watch back. Don't forget the next session's coming up on February 18th. We'll send some emails out leading into that over the next few weeks as well. So Gord, Don, Rob, anything else from you three?
I would just say with the second session in February, there will be different content. So the fact that you've attended today's seminar, don't think it's just a repeat of this. We will have additional rules information. And of course, always be ready with your questions, because if you have a question, you can rest assured that somebody else in the group does. So it's great to be able to discuss those, and excellent questions, everyone, tonight. Thank you.
And I think if questions do come up, and you please send them in through Brian, and he can get them out to us, and we can get answers to you. So we're here to help, and I want to work with people. So yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The game's still scoreless early in the first period, so you've got lots of time to see the Jets in Utah. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a good night. Stay warm.